everybody, welcome to our video today. We've done a little content on cordless and battery tools in the previous videos, but I wanted to cover this a little bit more from what is the end result when we get a battery that's being used in a situation where the blade maintenance and all the things necessary to keep it moving has been neglected. Now, when I say neglected, don't take offense. This is normal. We understand that everyone's busy in their chairs or at the grooming table, and we have a lot to get done in a day. But what I want to stress is that when it comes to the usage of these battery tools compared to our corded tools, the amount of back pressure that this is going to put into the motor itself, the circuitry, everything that's making the blade move. So all these tools that I have laid out here are just a few samples of what people are using today. The nice thing about the battery technology is that we continue to improve that. We've gone away, for the most part, from the nickel metal hydride batteries that we've had for a generation and moved into the lithium ion time and world, okay? And with that, we don't have as much issue with building memory in batteries. So that's a huge positive. We also have some raw power that's available different in these types of batteries that continues through the full charge life. Once we get to the end of the charge life, of course, they just shut off. So that's a little bit different compared to how we used to have the battery just kind of fade in power over the last cycle of the charge. So when we're working with the battery tools and we're taking and bringing it out and we're turning them on and using them, one thing that happens is that we have foreign material that's entering into the blade. So in our case, we're talking about whether it's animals or humans. We have the oils from our client, so I'll use that, see, that covers everybody. But the human oils, the animal oils, we've used shampoo. There's waxes in those shampoos, things that, again, start creating a nice mess inside the blade. So when I talk about cleaning a blade, I don't mean taking a brush and just knocking the hair off the outside. We'll talk about cleaning the blade in a fashion that brings a solvent of sorts to rinse out all the foreign material. Now, if you think wildly a little bit about that, what else could we have in the blade? We could have hairsprays, hair gels. Again, I mentioned the wax and shampoo, but we could have things from just overall wherever their work environment may have been, things like that. So dirt, dust, concrete powder, things that have floated into their hair, and we're now running that into our blade. Now we understand that a dull blade is not going to function as well, but let's say it's a nice sharp blade, but it's just full of all this foreign material. What is that going to do to us? Well, one, it should drag down the blade, and it being it's causing resistance. And I did put some, already kind of took liberty to put some things in here. I'm going to grab us a couple components that I left on the other table. Sorry to leave. Coming right back here. Here we've got our type of cleaner and oil. So I'm not asking anybody to do anything extraordinary, just what we would know even within our standard disinfecting practices, along with just what we would do for cleaning and oiling when I'm not talking about just that brush. So I'm going to turn this clipper on. I want us to hopefully hear, and I'll stop talking while I do this process, but I'm just going to spritz this across the blade as it's running, and we're going to listen to see if it picks up in speed. All right. I don't know if everyone heard that or not, but we had a definite increase in the speed of the blade, just in a quick spray of our solvent cleaner over the top. I'm going to do just a little bit more and make sure when I spray this, I'm trying to get across the teeth along with this back rail area where the cutter blade is moving and touches the back. There's a little more speed and power. Now the good thing is that is going to really take care of a lot of those foreign materials that were in the blade. You might even see some junk that I picked up on the towel just by wiping it off. Now if this blade has adequate oil, that might have been enough to solve the performance issue that it might have been having. But if we were going to go ahead and oil this blade to make sure it's really ready for use, I'm going to take my blade oil and I just want to bring in a drop or two in the teeth up here. And then I'm going to take and again hit this corner where the back foot touches. I'm going to do that on both sides. And I'm going to cycle the blade, being this is an adjustable. That way we smear the oil everywhere. Now I've always said if I could get 1 drop of oil to get everywhere around those surfaces, that would be enough. Because one of the arguments I hear every once in a while around not oiling a blade is that it's going to get in the client's hair or fur. Well, I understand that, but what we're talking about is the efficiency of use. Now once I've oiled that, even right now, notice I didn't put a lot. It was just 4 drops in this case. I'm going to go ahead and take it to my towel and just wipe off any excess before I go back in the client's hair. So if I'm working in my back bar, I can turn, do this process, and come back. And it usually only takes about 20, 30 seconds at the most. I can do that in about 5 to 10 seconds, especially if all I'm doing is spritzing the blade to see if we can regain some performance. Well, how does performance affect what we're doing in the cut? One, what that can do is it's going to reduce our feed rate. So in other words, this blade can only take so much hair or fur at a time in the stroke that you move. So as you're coming up the hairline or you're coming down the back of the dog and you move, how efficient this blade is working will affect how quick you can move. That gets into what is your ability to get work done in a day. So if I'm coming in and my performance is low, I may still move at the same feed rate with my hand, but I'm leaving hair and I'm leaving bumps and irregular lines in the hair. And I have to come back and do that stroke again. Well, now I've got most of it, but I've got to go again to make it a smooth, nice line. As I'm doing that, I just wasted some of my valuable time in the day. So if I can get that back to where in 1 to 2 little passes instead of 3 or 4 to get the same result, I've just improved in my efficiency of my day. So if we're trying to make money at this, wouldn't it make sense to try to make sure we're as efficient as we can? As we think through that then, I cleaned up this blade, I oiled it, and I have that performance back. What else was happening when that blade was under that extra load? Well, one of the things it's doing is it's putting extra pressure against all the components trying to get the blade to slide. And if we want to use a technical term, we would talk about coefficients of slide friction. So we're going into physics. And some of those physics then, it talks about how much energy is required to get that cutter to move and slide back and forth against the comb. So it's not only how much we've pinched it together with the spring mechanism, but also what resistances there are to that motion. We want it to move as freely as possible. If we're putting that extra load against those components, we're wearing them and making them start to malfunction. Eventually we might break some of the components. But let's say we're not even going to get there. We're still going to move the blade and the clipper, the trimmer, they're going to try the best they can to keep that movement. So what's that going to mean? It's going to mean that the battery is supplying voltage to that motor and trying to keep it spinning at its full optimum speed. But now it has all that load against it. So think about somebody that's got a little 4-cylinder car and they come to a big hill. As they start at the bottom of the hill, they're running along just fine. And as they proceed up the grade, the pressure and weight of the vehicle, and maybe us big Americans, are sitting in there putting extra load against that vehicle. And the motor can't handle the load that it has, and it's losing speed, it's losing power. And so in this case, what we're doing is we're forcing the battery to put extra voltage than what it should have to keep the blade in motion. Putting that extra strain and load against the motor is going to, again, break it down, but also it's putting load and force against the battery. In that case, eventually what's going to happen is we're going to take the cells in that battery and we're going to diminish their capacity to function. Overheat something. Think about just putting an extra load and force against something for a long period of time. Just hold a bucket in your arms up in the air for a long period of time. You start to strain after a very short amount of time, and eventually it gets to where you can't hold the bucket anymore. Think of that with your battery, that we're going to lose that capacity to hold the strength that we need to function with the motor. So what we get is a very, very common phone call in here is, well, I just don't have any charge time. It's very early in its life. I've only had it a couple months and I've already lost charge time. A lot of times what we can do is that client may bring in that tool, and we'll see if this one will cooperate with us again, show us a little bit of change. But we'll take, and all I have to do, and again, I don't know if you heard that change, but there was definitely a pickup in speed. It was falling under the load of a little bit of extra foreign material in the blade, causing it not to function the way we need to. And by just putting a little bit of extra time into cleaning and oil, now I'm going to quiet it down, smooth it up by putting my oil in just the same way as I did the last time. I'm still seeing some foreign material, it looks like, coming out of the back of the blade right now. It's even making little bubbles. I don't know if you can see those, but they're there. Kind of like, it looks like white substance. So there was something in that blade. So I think, well, I probably didn't do enough cleaning. So I'm just going to spray it again and get some more of that to come out so we can get the best function out of our clipper. After I spray that in, again, I'm going to re-oil. And I know that's probably more than you ever want to use. But what I'm trying to explain is, if we want battery tools to give us longevity in life, we need to keep that maintenance at a high performance level. A lot of times I consider ourselves, when we are doing service and repair work, and I look at how we work with our customers, what our job is. And our job is to be the pit crew at NASCAR. You're the drivers, you're the professionals, you're using these tools every day, all day. I'm sitting in the pits waiting for you to come give me a description of what is slowing you down or not allowing you to get your work done efficiently. So I'm going to listen to you and try to make sure we do that. Sometimes it's adjustments. On these battery tools, there's really not any adjustments involved. So what we have to do is make sure the one piece that we can control from a user standpoint is the blade maintenance. And if you can maintain this, just like we've been talking about, I know maybe I'm being a little redundant, but this is our whole focus, is how do we make the tool last longer and perform better for you? In that light, again, cleaning and oiling that blade on a very regular basis, if you notice that the performance of your tool seems to have dropped, it's just not functioning the way you need it to, maybe you know you've got 1,000,000 miles on the blade, maybe it's time to change that blade and put a fresh one. Otherwise, the first thing that I would recommend, again, is a very quick spritz of the blade. So I'll pick up another one. And if I just came in, and this particular clipper is fresh out of our display rack, so I don't know if we'll hear anything come out of it or not, but we haven't really put anything extra, like some hairspray or anything like that that might have been in someone's hair. This is just sitting on the shelf. So if I spray it, yeah, we didn't really get much change that time, right? It stayed pretty mellow. What that also tells me is that the oil that's in the blade is adequate. Now, if this spray that I used, and I just did a little spritz, dries, and then I notice a performance change, it drags back down after it flashes off, then I would note it to myself that it needed oil. And then I can put my drops. In this case, this is the Oster Fast Feed. We have the teeth where we would put the oil. So again, 1 to 2 drops in the teeth. Then there's a guide. There's a little piece up in here of nylon plastic material that is directing the cutter in its position. I would want to put a drop there. And then I'm going to, again, come to these back corners and put a drop on each side. And when I do that, I've got a fully oiled blade, I cycle it, and we're ready to use again. Now, I did not put this is a wall cam cordless. We can do that on this blade as well. Again, if I listen, not a lot of change. So this blade is sitting in our display case and has not had anything happen to it. A lot of times, again, what I'll note is when I have customers come in to look at our display rack, even on corded tools, all they've done is sat, and maybe it's been for a few days or a few weeks since someone's turned it on. And the oil itself that was just in that blade, so let's say this is in your satchel and it's a clipper you had in for service and whatnot, and you haven't touched it in weeks, the oil itself can get sticky just on its own. So to start with that very light spritz, just a quick spritz across the blade, a lot of times will free up that oil and get it moving again. So that in itself can help improve the performance of the blade. And then we go in and we start making our cuts. The general idea is that if we have put this extra load on the battery, what's going to happen is, I mentioned before, it's going to degrade the quality and strength of the battery. So again, with those phone calls that we get that tell us that, well, I'm just not getting any battery life, obviously we start with the idea of, what's your charging cycle look like? When are you putting it on the charger? Are you leaving it on the charger? Different questions that way. Possibly we have a charger issue, but I'm also going to ask about your blade maintenance. And if we spray the blade and it picks up in speed right away, we're going to note that, hey, that's putting a huge amount of load against that battery. Now, if we leave it in that condition for a long period of time, the battery is going to fail. So we can have tools that still might even be under warranty, and depending on what brand and where they're at, you would have to contact that supplier or that manufacturer. We do handle Oster warranty service here at our shop. We're a master service center with Wall on the animal division, but we don't do warranty. So again, if you've lost your receipt or you've had issues that way, then we can help you in the repair, but it won't help you get that warranty solved. We would send them off, you would send it off to get those things handled. In the meantime, if we're talking about a tool that's outside warranty and it just needs that help and fix, usually we have the parts to help. There are some brands of tools out there that do not have any supply of components outside the manufacturer. We can talk about like Babyliss as be an example, where the only thing you have is warranty. Outside that, they are not repairable. So think through when you're purchasing tools what your expectation is for their life and length of life. Very important today's market to keep your receipts, keep them handy. Do not misplace those, because again, if you want to handle warranty with most of these factories, that's going to be required. In the case of giving the tool as much life and longevity as possible, I'm going to hit this one more time. We keep that blade cleaned and oiled, and in the light of the day, that may mean multiple times through the day that we're going to reach around and use these products. Not just once a day, not once a week or once a month. And again, I know I have clients that have that kind of mentality around the cleaning and oiling of a blade. This information is good for your sharpener, for your repair person, along with the end users out there. And again, I appreciate your attention and the importance of what this is. As battery tools become more and more prevalent in our stations, it's going to be more important than ever for you guys to take care of this on a daily and maybe even hourly basis. So again, thank you for listening, and we hope that this was helpful to all of you. If you are on one of the stations where you can like this, we would appreciate it, and reach out to us. You can go to our website where we have things available, and again, we do service, sharpening, and take care of the repairs here in our store, and we sell product as well. Hope all is great with everyone. God bless.